radio audience. This is Graham McNamee speaking. We bring you a period of delightful entertainment sponsored by Coca-Cola, that pure drink of natural flavors served 9 million times a day. A half hour devoted to popular music and unusual news of sports by Grant and Wright. We dedicate this program to the pause that refreshes. The pause that refreshes, as everybody knows, means to drop your cares for a minute, relax, and enjoy the life and sparkle you find in an ice-cold Coca-Cola. First, a famous song from the famous talkie, Sunny Side Up. I'm a dreamer, aren't we all?
Alarming how I fall. She's ideal, but then she isn't real, and I'm a fool. But aren't we all?
You've already realized that you're listening to an orchestra different from any that's ever been on the air. The Coca-Cola Orchestra is an all-string orchestra. It doesn't even have a saxophone. And it's different, too, because it's conducted by Leonard Joy, famous recording artist. Every piece we'll hear this evening is especially arranged just for us. For instance, here is My Gal Sal in a brand new dress. Here's one that bubbles to the brim. Sweeter than sweet. It'll make you want to dance.
This above song, my sweeter than sweet. I could rack my brain now as our glances meet. Just a line remains now, my sweeter than sweet. And if I ever lose you, all my dreams are wrecked. You mean the world to me, or words to that effect. Very few love songs that I've ever heard are quite so incomplete, so silly and so absurd. Main thing is that you are, as I have inferred, my sweeter than sweet.
By the Coca-Cola Orchestra is a tango. Rosita, refreshing music that comes to us from the other America. Like Coca-Cola, it had to be good to get where it is. Now we'll let the members of the orchestra pause and refresh themselves while we sit back, relax, and enjoy a special treat. Just the time for an ice-cold bottle of delicious and refreshing Coca-Cola. Standing beside me is a man who is perhaps the world's most famous writer of sports, Grantland Rice. With him is a man whose name is a household word, the idol of baseball fans everywhere. In his day, the keenest batting eye in baseball, star of place hitters, and the fastest base runner. None other than Ty Cobb, the man who has broken practically every record in baseball. Grant Rice will interview Ty Cobb on baseball and the coming season. Grant?
Thanks, Graham. Well, Ty, you faced Walter Johnson's fast one when he had more smoke than a burning oil well. Now you're facing the mic. Which team's the easier?
Well, I think I'll take a chance on Walter. This mic kind of gives me stage fright.
Well, Ty, you've asked me not to make this too personal, but you have played in more ball games. You have made more hits. You have stolen more bases, and you have scored more runs than any player that ever lived. A record like this is a personal matter with a good many million people. First of all, I would like to ask you the biggest thrill you ever got in any one game.
Well, Grantland, I've played in over 4,000 ball games in the last 25 years, and the biggest thrill I ever got came in a game against the Athletics in 1907. I was only 20 years old then, not quite 21, and it looked as if this game meant the pennant. The Athletics had us beaten with Rube Waddell pitching. They were 2 runs ahead in the 9th inning when I happened to hit a home run that tied the score. This game went 17 innings to a tie. And a few days later, we clinched our first pennant. You can understand what it meant for a 20-year-old country boy to hit a home run off the great Rube in a pennant-winning game with 2 out in the 9th.
Boy, I suppose you've missed the old game a lot, Ty. All the thrills and crowds and the headlines and all.
I thought I would miss it a lot, Graham, but I haven't. It's a great old game, but I've almost felt like a prisoner who was set free.
Just how do you mean, Ty?
Baseball to me was more work than play. In fact, it was all work. You see, I was lucky enough to lead the league when I was 20 years old. After that, I wanted to lead it every year. I never thought I was any genius, so I gave up my life to the game for 25 years. I suppose I was in nearly 30,000 plays, and I at least tried to think about every play and how it should be made. Here's one example. I figured out one play to use against Hal Chase. He used to snap the ball over to third to catch me rounding the bag. I'd always slide back. I had to wait 2 years for the right time to work it. But one day, I just kept on going and managed to score the winning run.
Did you have any set system to work on, Ty?
Yes, my system was all offense. I believed in putting up a mental hazard for the other fellow. If we were 5 or 6 runs ahead, I'd try some wild play, such as going from first to home on a single. This helped to make the other side hurry the play in a close game later on. I worked out all the angles I could think of to keep them guessing and hurrying. Every play was a problem of some sort. That's what I meant by the strain and grind of 25 years.
Who was the best pitcher you ever faced, Ty?
Walter Johnson had more stuff, although Ed Walsh in his prime was a wonder. But the ones who gave me the most trouble were pitchers like Mogridge, Carl Wildman, and Carter, all left-handers who depended more on slow curves and dinky-dinks. They bothered me more than speed or fast curves.
Well, who was the hardest hitter you ever saw?
Well, you can't beat the Babe. Ruth is one of the few who can take a terrific swing and still meet the ball solidly. His timing is perfect. Lajoie was the hardest line hitter I ever saw, and I'd like to see Sam Crawford, Joe Jackson, and Frank Schulte lay against this modern ball. But none of them had the combined eye and power of Ruth.
There's one thing, Ty, I've always wondered about, and so have many others. How did your legs ever stand the strain of more than 4,000 ball games and more than 4,000 hits when you were always at top speed?
Well, in the first place, I always tried to keep in condition. And I can tell all the boys that means everything. For instance, I only ate 2 meals a day. I built up my legs in 2 ways. I hunted all through the winter, frequently walking all day long. I almost lived on my legs. In addition, I always hunted in heavy boots. When the training season opened, I fixed a piece of lead to my shoes. I took the lead off when the pennant race opened, and I felt as if I could run faster. I lost some of the old spring in the last year or 2, but my legs today are as strong as they were. If you want good legs, you have to put them to work. I never gave mine any holidays.
How did you steal so many bases, Ty? There were others just about as fast.
As I said before, you had to do more thinking in the old days when home runs were fewer. Games were close, and every play counted. The 2 most important things in base stealing are getting the jump on the pitcher and making your slide away from the baseman. In stealing bases, I always watched the baseman's eyes to know where the ball was coming. His eyes had to watch the ball. I didn't have the time for this, but his eyes told me, and then I knew where to throw my body away from the baseman.
I am pretty sure, Ty, everybody would like to have you pick the next 2 pennant winners.
For any good pennant-winning ball club, the second year is the easiest to repeat. The Athletics and the Cubs were both good teams, and I think they will be fighting it out again in the next World Series. That's my pick, anyway.
Thanks a lot, Grant, and you, Ty. I believe I can speak for just about everybody when I say I'm looking forward right now to the interview Grant Rice is preparing for next week with another famous figure in the world of sport. And now, off to a fresh start with the Coca-Cola Orchestra playing its own version of Wild Rose. Most of us have forgotten how to waltz. Yet we want the Coca-Cola Orchestra to play for you Sweet Mystery of Life, set to waltz style. We'll just relax again in our easy chairs and enjoy another pause that refreshes. Aren't we ready for another dance? Here's one everybody is thirsty for. I'm Following You. A special interpretation by Leonard Joy and the Coca-Cola Orchestra.
Someone to share it. I'll carry half the load for you. What's more, grin and bear it. You're part of my heart. You know that it's true. Wherever you start, I'm following you.
heard the first of the Coca-Cola Top Notchers, featuring Grantland Rice and Ty Cobb with Leonard Joy and the Coca-Cola Orchestra. A program of tingling music and sparkling news of sport, as refreshing as ice-cold Coca-Cola itself. Next week, at this same time, you'll again hear the Coca-Cola Orchestra and Grantland Rice interviewing another top-notcher, Stuart Maiden, the man who taught Bobby Jones to play golf. From the world of sport. Listen in. Everybody's invited. This is Graham McNamee bidding you good night all and refreshing rest.
Coca-Cola Top Notchers have come to you from the New York studios of the National Broadcasting Company.
Ladies and gentlemen of the radio audience, this is Graham McNamee speaking. Again, we bring you a period of delightful entertainment sponsored by Coca-Cola. That pure drink of natural flavors served 9 million times a day. Coca-Cola presents popular music played in an unusual way by an unusual orchestra, an all-string orchestra, conducted by Leonard Joy, and an interview with another outstanding sports figure by the famous sports writer, Grantland Rice. We dedicate this program to the pause that refreshes. The pause that refreshes, as everybody knows, is the brief time we take to enjoy an ice-cold Coca-Cola. A little minute that's long enough for a big rest. First, a bubbling melody called So Sympathetic.
That's why you made me grow sentimental. My troubles vanish when you are near. You're so sympathetic, dear. It's just pathetic how I rely on your friendly shoulder, just made to cry on. I must have you each day in my year. You're so sympathetic. sympathetic dear.
Coca-Cola is just a drink, but what a drink. And here's a song that's just a song, but what a song. Romance. tango this time. Sparkling and delicious. Corrida.
This is WEEI in Boston.
We'll stop our dance for a moment, and while the members of the orchestra pause and refresh themselves, let us relax in our easy chairs. Just the place to enjoy an ice-cold bottle of Coca-Cola and hear Grantland Rice, the foremost authority on sport, interview one of the outstanding professional golfers of the United States and the world, another celebrity who had to be good to get where he is. His name is Stuart Maiden. Stuart Maiden was the man who gave Bobby Jones his first golf lesson when Bobby was about 6 or 7 years old, who taught him his famous stroke and directed Bobby's golf career for over 15 years. He also taught Alexis Sterling, 3 times national champion. Grant Rice will interview Stuart Maiden on the interesting subject of Bobby Jones. Come in, Grant.
Well, Stuart, there was once a kid by the name of Bobby Jones who studied and copied your golf swing. He seems to have done pretty well with it here and there. In fact, I think you will have to admit that your pupil is the greatest golf genius of the age, possibly of all ages. Almost everybody would like to know how a genius gets started and what makes him a genius. Stuart, when was the first time you ever saw Bobby Jones?
Why, at his father's house one Sunday afternoon. A kid about 5 years old came into the room with...
First time you ever thought he would make a good golfer. How old was he, Stuart?
Well, Grant, he was a good golfer the first time I ever saw him swing. He was then about 7. He had good footwork, body balance, and rhythm, which are the most important things in any golf swing. He was a serious little fellow, and he worked hard at it. He could get good distance with his little light club because he hit the ball the right way.
Stuart, he must have been like several of our great violin players who were wonders at the age of 8 or 9. How much did you have to teach him?
Very little. I don't believe in teaching too many things and confusing the pupil. I first changed his grip to the overlapping, the one he uses now. He had no weakness with any club. I'd just watch him and check him up on one or two slight faults now and then. He'd the two main things, balance, rhythm. They never need any correction. Even at the age of 9, he could play around at 80.
When Bob was a kid, around age 8 or 9, did he have any trouble, Stuart, slicing, hooking, or topping the ball?
Well, not as much as he has now. I know he was a better mashie player at 14 than he is today. Even when he was 7, he knew enough to shift his weight and let his hand swing the club ahead smoothly when he hit the ball.
At just what point, Stuart, did you think he was going to make a champion, a real champion?
Well, I'll tell you, Grant. I knew he had as good a swing as anyone would want. He was good enough at 13 to win a championship. But there are many good golf swings. I knew he was keen to win, and that always helped. But I knew a champion was coming one day. He played a mashie niblick pitch 2 feet from the cup and then broke the club.
You don't mean he was sore because he hadn't holed out or hit the pin, Stuart, do you?
No, that had nothing to do with it. He was sore because he hadn't made the shot the way he was trying to. He was honest with himself. He was playing one kind of a shot and got another. Because the ball was close to the hole, they did not accuse his faulty execution. He was never satisfied with anything but perfect control of himself and the club, no matter where the ball stopped. Most golfers don't care how they hit the ball so long as it stops near the cup.
I know. People used to criticize Bob because they didn't know what was going on in his young mind. He was only sore at himself because he hated flaws in his own way. Why do you suppose these 18-hole matches bother him, Stuart?
They ought not to, Grant. He shouldn't care whether a golf match was 1 hole, 3 holes, 16 holes, or 18 holes. The 18-hole worry is all nonsense as far as he's concerned, and I hope he's listening.
Was Bobby an easy pupil to handle, Stuart?
About the easiest any instructor ever had. That is as far as his golf was concerned. At East Lake, it was 520 yards long. He was 12 years old, and I have seen him reach these green repeatedly with a drive and a spoon and carry right into the middle of the green. By then, he had a good pair of hands and strong wrists, and he knew how to use them without letting his body interfere.
Now, there's one important thing, Stuart. Thousands of mothers and fathers would like to get a tip. Is it better for young boys and girls to get set instruction or to watch, study, and copy good players in a natural way?
Well, Grant, I would say, just talking to them as I was talking to themselves. Don't give them too much instruction. Let them watch good players once in a while and try and go ahead and swing the best way they can. And if there's anything very much out of order with them, get somebody to look them over and tell them right at once what to go ahead and do. All they need is a good pro to check them up once in a while. If there's any faults, he'll soon find them out before they get bad habits. But the kid must get the right mental picture to work on. And even then, he's going to have a hard job if he's going to try to emulate Bobby Jones because there's only one.
I heard he was, Stuart. Thanks a lot, Grant, and thank you, Stuart Maiden. Next week, Grant Rice will introduce us to another celebrity in sports at this same hour. Don't miss it. And now, we're off to a fresh start with more music. The Coca-Cola Orchestra playing Why Do You Suppose?
and cats meow. Why do you suppose that apples have blossoms upon the bough? Why do birds sing melodies, and why do goats wear long goatees? It must be that they aim to please with real hot nanny goat appeal. Don't you understand that flowers have perfume to draw the bees? Why do you suppose that you're so attractive to me?
And you'll recognize this one by its refreshing sparkle, the bubble from Firefly.
for meeting up with one another. Thank the horse that pulled the buggy that night. Thank the dog for being merry and bright. Thank the June night. Thank the moonlight that caressed her from above. And thank goodness for the marriage and for that baby Carrie, or I'd have no one to love.
So we conclude another of the Coca-Cola programs, featuring Grant and Rice and Stuart Maiden this evening, with Leonard Joy and the Coca-Cola Orchestra, a program of tingling music and sparkling news of sport. Next week, at this time, once again you'll hear the Coca-Cola Orchestra, and Grant and Rice will interview another outstanding figure in the world of sports, James J. Corbett, Gentleman Jim, the man who put John L. Sullivan away. Listen in. Everybody's invited. This is Graham McNamee bidding you good night, all, and refreshing rest.